Hey freaks and friends, welcome to day 7 of the 31 Days of October. The daily content continues with the 45 years of Halloween celebration. Today we are going back to basics, and Michael Myers, back to babysitters, no anthologies, no seasonal witches, none of that silly stuff. We're looking at Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers. Make sure to stab that subscribe button and slash that bell icon so you don't miss out on this daily Halloween content all through the month of October. Halloween 4 was released October 21st, 1988, and stars Donald Pleasance, Ellie Cornell, Danielle Harris, and Bo Starr. The film was directed by Dwight H. Little, and the final screenplay was written by Alan B. McElroy. There are a few other people who contributed to the story, but that's 4 names. They're on the screen. So Halloween 4 picks up 10 years after the first 2 films. It turns out that Michael Myers and Dr. Loomis did not die in the explosion at the end of Halloween 2. In fact, they're both doing pretty okay. Myers is in a coma. Loomis is still Myers' practicing doctor. And on October 30th, they decide, hey, we're going to transfer Myers to a different facility. What's the worst that could happen? He escapes while en route when the paramedics mention that he has a niece living in his hometown. That urges Michael out of his coma, so he returns to Haddonfield, gets the whole shebang going back on, the jumpsuit, the white mask. It doesn't look as good this time, but Myers is in top form. He's looking better than ever almost. 10 years in a coma, no muscular weaknesses or nothing. He's doing fine. Dr. Loomis is on the hunt to get back to Michael. He's like, nope, we're not doing this again. We're not playing this game again. So he goes out to Haddonfield to try and stop Michael one more time. And he seeks the help of Haddonfield Police Sheriff. This time it's Sheriff Meeker, as Brackett has since retired, gone all the way to Florida. Meanwhile, Michael's niece, Jamie Lloyd, who is the surviving daughter of a now deceased Laurie Strode, is deciding, you know what? This year, I'm gonna finally celebrate Halloween happily, and with the help of her foster sister, acquires a Halloween costume, a little clown, completely innocent, nothing to do with what her uncle did 25 years before, but they go trick-or-treating, and they are ultimately coming face-to-face with Michael Myers in what could be the final showdown. It's not, by the way. That's probably the simplest and somehow most convoluted way to really go into the quick plot synopsis for Halloween 4. So taking a look at characters here, we of course have Donald Pleasance returning as Dr. Loomis. He's still putting in a great performance, as is going to sort of be the gold standard going forward. This is probably the last really great performance that he gives, but there's still 2 more, and you know, when you start to play a character so long and the film's quality sort of vary, you can only expect so much out of an actor as great as Donald Pleasance. But I think what he does here is still pretty great. It's still in that sort of vein similar to Halloween 1 and 2. He's definitely a little more of a harbinger of doom at this point, as he has now seen what Myers is capable of. He doesn't want for there to be a repeat of what happened 10 years ago. Tough shit, it's gonna happen, Doc. Nothing you can do about it. Try as you might, you can't get Michael out of the picture here. I mean, the filmmakers tried that, so good luck to you, Doc. But no, Donald Pleasance really does bring his A-game to the film here. He's definitely playing Loomis in a lot more sort of frantic manner. Again, having seen what Myers had done 10 years ago. He still delivers some pretty awesome monologues there. They're not anywhere near as great, but he does have these little moments where he does shine with that sort of Halloween 78 gravitas there. He just brings it to the table here, and it's definitely a little more of a tamed down performance in some ways, as Donald Pleasance is quite a bit older at this point. He's not going to be doing as much crazy shit as he could have done in the first 2 films. But there's definitely a little more focus on him as a character, which I think is cool here. So we're getting a bit of an evolution with him. Can't complain about his performance really at all. Next up we have Ellie Cornell as Rachel Carruthers, who is called by some to be one of the best final girls in the Halloween franchise. I can't completely argue that from an almost objective standpoint. Rachel's pretty cool. Now, nostalgia is where sort of my opinion on this one isn't going to be as high, so just heads up going forward, guys. Rachel is okay, she's serviceable. I think she's pretty great in terms of final girls at this point in the decade, where a lot of them just feel like they're sort of this rinse repeat. Oh, we want them to all be like Jamie Lee Curtis or Alice from Friday the 13th. We're just trying to cycle through that. I feel that Rachel does kind of have a little bit of heart to her. She definitely has that girl next door vibe. She's definitely shown to be caring, but she does have that little bit of selfishness there displayed at the beginning of the film. But you can't blame her. Hormonal teen, she wants to get her fucking rocks off. But she has to babysit, so she's gonna be a little shithead about it. Can't say I'd blame her at that point, you know? But she definitely shows some maturing there when she does end up stepping up and protecting Jamie from Michael. And when she faces him off in the final act there, runs him down with the truck, that's pretty freaking cool. Yeah, Rachel's pretty solid for the most part. She kind of reminds me also of Kyle. I was getting that vibe like when I was watching it just a little bit ago. She sort of has that Kyle from Child's Play 2 vibe. Or is it that Kyle from Child's Play 2 has the Rachel vibe, as this one came out first? There's a little bit of a similarity there, where they're both like this older teen girl taking care of a little kid being chased by a psycho killer. It's an interesting dynamic I'll probably explore further maybe next month, because I probably won't have time to do that right now. But speaking of children in peril, we have Danielle Harris playing Jamie Lloyd. You know, she really does have one of the best performances in this film when you consider her age. Like, if you just focus in on her performance in the film, like the way she portrays terror and being afraid, I mean, she knocks it out of the park. And when you consider how young she was at the time, that's like, there were people in their early to mid 20s playing in slasher films who could not portray being afraid of whatever killer's coming after them. Like, she definitely acted the shit out of this film. She definitely outacted a lot of the contemporaries as far as like the older actors in the sort of similar type of films went. She's just pretty great here. Again, she plays Myers' niece, so there's sort of that familial connection, and that is sort of the dictation of the franchise direction following the events of Halloween 2. This one just sort of cemented that, yeah, Myers is a family man. He's all about that family life. So this kind of pushed that in a different direction, further into that direction rather. But Danielle Harris was really great here, and I could see why people want a sequel to this, especially when you consider the ending in this one, which is honestly one of the most rock solid endings in any slasher film, at least in the 80s. Maybe of slashers of all time, perhaps. I'd have to really sit down and think about that one, but when you look at the ending here, it's no surprise why people want a requel for Halloween 4, where it's like, no, we're going to forget about 5 and 6. We want a new Halloween 5. I don't blame people for that, but it's too late, guys. Just, we got to deal with facts now. Come on. The last character that I want to hone in on in sort of a deep dive is going to be Sheriff Meeker, played by Beau Starr. You guys saw the other day where I put Meeker in terms of the Haddonfield sheriffs. This guy is just a freaking badass. Like, he knows the history of the town. He knows that, hey, if this Myers guy is back in town, shit's about to get really real, really quick, and it's going to be really bad for everybody. He's not playing around. He's like, if you're right, we're going to get this son of a bitch, and we're going to do it now. Like, we're not going to play around. We're not going to have that repeated 10 years ago. As I said, it didn't work out too well for everybody in town. He definitely brings his A game to this too, when you consider that he's not really a major character in the film. He's just sort of a secondary character. I feel that he definitely gives a better performance than most people would have for a character like that. And that's just one reason to really appreciate his character. But he's not one to screw around. He actually takes a step away from the action, presumably to try and see where the rest of the police force is going to be, trying to stop the Earl and his redneck friends from freaking accidentally killing half the town. Like, he's definitely trying to get shit figured out. He's trying to get the state patrol out there to help them with everything. He's just freaking great. And the other characters that we have in here too, Brady. Brady's another one of those characters where it's like, you know, you kind of understand where he's coming from with his confliction there. It's like, yeah, I've got a girlfriend, but this other hot girl wants a piece of me too, and my girl backed out of our date tonight, so I gotta jump to the next best thing. I mean, we've all been in high school, we've all been teenagers, we all know what it's like to have those hormones on fucking 10. Some of us are older and we still fucking get that way. What can you do about it? But Brady, I think, definitely redeems himself. Like, he kind of shows to be an asshole when he does end up going to hang out with Kelly Meeker instead, and Rachel catches him and he tries to play dumb. I didn't know, Rachel. Shut up, Brady. You fucking knew what you did, bud. But I think he does a pretty good job redeeming himself. It's in a way similar to Cameron in Halloween Kills. That's probably another little thing I'm going to try and touch on at a later point there. But Brady's a pretty cool character. Kelly Meeker, of course, one of the biggest blue ball moments in horror. Cops do it by the book. Not a whole lot really else to say about Kelly Meeker. You got the fuck off Wade. Wade is one of those just fun little side characters. You got Reverend Sayer, another little minor character who we only have one scene with. He's got a pretty interesting little moment with Loomis where he picks him up as he's on his way back to Haddonfield. It's like, yeah, you know, I'm hunting it too. Been hunting the bastard for, I forget how many years he says, but that's a little film that we could use. Like, just an expansion film. I would not be opposed to seeing what Reverend Sayer's up to, what he's after. Give us that Sayer film, guys. As far as characters go, that's really about all the ones that I do want to talk about. On the whole, I do want to say that the characters in this one and their performances are actually considerably better than those in the first Halloween film, and arguably better than the ones in the second film. That's kind of a tricky little one to tackle, but if I had to pick right now, I would say that Halloween 4 probably does have the best acting and characters up to this point. But before we move on from characters completely, there is one that I do have to touch on. That is, of course, the man of the hour, the Boogeyman, Michael the Shape Myers, this time played by the iconic late George P. Wilbur. You guys know that George P. is one of my favorite Myers. If you've seen the Myers ranking that we did with it was me, Chris, and Matt over on Matt's channel a few years back, I was really high on George Wilbur, and I still am. I think he definitely brings something to the role that was not there with Warlock or Castle. He definitely has that Phantom level sort of on a 10, as opposed to where they were like probably about a 7 as far as the Phantom skills go. I think it's that he definitely portrays Myers in a more, you're starting to feel he is supernatural. He's definitely a little more brooding. He does look silly with sort of the hockey pads here, but it's really in 6 where Wilbur really steps up his game as Myers. But I think here, if he had been given a better mask and was just allowed to show his natural body under the jumpsuit there, I think that his performance would be looked at a little bit better here. His Myers wouldn't be seen as so silly or off-putting or whatever in this one. I think he definitely plays Myers in a scary fashion, and when the lighting is right, I mean, he does look pretty damn solid and sinister here. I mean, when he kills Kelly Meeker and you got that blue sort of lighting that we had in the first film, it's very reminiscent to the shot of Myers' face when he pins Bob to the wall. So that's a pretty great moment there. George P. Wilbur, I think, is still one of the better Myers in my opinion, but there's something besides the mask that is just a little off about his performance. I can't quite pin that down. Do got to give special shout out to Tom Morga, who did do the bandage Myers, and I think there was another thing he did, and I can't remember what it is right off the top of my head, but Tom Morga deserves a special shout out here. He definitely had a pretty cool little run as Myers in this film. I think if he had been given the whole film, he still probably would have been a pretty badass version of Myers. And honestly, I wouldn't have argued if we had just the bandage look there. I probably would have hated it as a kid, but the bandage face, I think, definitely looks better than the mask we have in here. And the kills that Myers has in here are pretty cool too. They're still pretty in tow with the first two films, but you have a few where they were like, no, we're trying to compete with like Friday the 13th, so we need to have some really brutal kills here. Like the Earl kill, that's just fucking beautiful there. Michael's pretty badass in this one, and yeah, the kills all around in this one are pretty great. I mean, you have when he kills Bucky, that is cool because of the purpose that it serves, where he just throws him into the Transformers there, boom, blocks out power for pretty much the whole town there. You have the off-screen massacre of the sheriff's department. I feel like no matter which way you could shoot that scene, I don't think it could be anywhere near as cool as any one of us would imagine it. It's all part of that theater of the mind bit there. Just all the kills in this one are pretty damn solid, honestly. I mean, save for Deputy Logan, it's just one of those reveals where he's just kind of tucked away. Looks kind of goofy, but whatever. Moving into the mood and atmosphere and all the fun stuff that goes along with that, the music here was done by Alan Howarth by himself, and I think he definitely brings to the table something that John Carpenter definitely would have approved of. It's something that really complements the film. It might be one of the better scores up to this point that the films have going on for it. His updated rendition of the Halloween theme is pretty cool too, especially with the little overture of the sort of oohs and ahs and just that really ghostly sort of almost choral feel going on that we get during the opening, which is one of the great opening title sequences in the series. That's just loaded with that Halloween feel. I mean, when we see all the freaking festive decorations there, we're getting that feel of being outside. You can almost smell the screen. You can almost feel the cold weather going on there. And that's one of the things too throughout the whole film. Like this one definitely capitalizes on that October feel. Despite being not in California, but this time in Utah, it still feels like it's very Midwest with its depiction of the fall atmosphere. And, you know, as I've said, I'm in Colorado, not quite the Midwest, but it's like close enough to where it's almost there, but not really. We sort of get that here, and honestly, when I watch this one, it definitely has that feeling that I get here when it gets cold. Like, you can definitely feel it in the air. You get the little bit of fog going on. Again, just the little use of the blue lighting throughout the film, I think, really makes it look nice. The cinematography is still pretty solid. It's not the same level as it had been with Dean Cundey. I didn't really pay too close attention to the cinematography on this one, so I can't really go too into detail on that. But it wasn't anything really worth complaining about. But it's definitely still feels like it's part of that original 3-run films, where it feels like it's still connected in a lot of ways. It has that presentation. Now, when we're talking revisiting factor of this film, this is one that I'm really likely to revisit during a marathon, or if I'm watching a certain timeline, like if I'm watching the Thorn trilogy timeline, like I'll watch 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. However, when it comes to just picking a Halloween film off the shelf for shits and giggles, I'm sorry, but Halloween 4 is not one that I'm just going to be like, I'm in the mood for a Halloween film. Hey, let's watch Halloween 4, double scoops on that bitch, right? It's the nostalgia, guys. It's just not there for me with nostalgia. It was one of the last ones I saw out of the original. It was either right before or right after Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 came out that I saw this one, and by that point I had seen all of them except for Halloween 3, I believe. And, you know, I liked it for what it was, but I had already seen Halloween 6 and H2O, and you guys know Halloween 6 was my first, so there's already that special place in the heart there. But it does kind of take away a lot of the punching power that this film would have had. And that's no fault of my own. It's just the way nostalgia works, guys. You know, Some of you guys have this one much higher. I do like this film. It falls somewhere in the middle for me, but it's no fault of the film. It's just the time in which I saw it as a Halloween fan. I still love it. It's part of the family. This is like seriously my favorite franchise, guys. So if I'm saying something bad about it, it's because I love it. It should be better. You know, you tell your family members all the time shit like that. Like, hey, the only reason I'm yelling at you and being a dick is because I love you. That's kind of my relationship with Halloween 4 here. Revisitability at random, not gonna happen, but I do like it. So with all that said, guys, Halloween 4 is still a very crucial piece of the Halloween timeline, especially when we're looking at the original. It's a pretty standout piece of the franchise. It's probably one that I would hand to somebody who's wanting to get into the Halloween series. It's got a lot of great moments that really stand out, so that alone I think makes it worth giving to a first-time viewer. So this is one that I would definitely recommend highly, even though I'm not likely to reach for it just for shits and giggles and rewatches and whatnot. But Halloween 4, it definitely earns any and all respect that it gets. When I was talking about the first one might be overrated and overhyped, I'm sorry to say that's kind of how I feel about this one, but I still respect the hell out of it. But with all that said, guys, Halloween 4 will be getting 4 fried eggs on the side of a hot face out of 5. So as always, I want to thank you guys for watching. Please be sure to play with some of the icons down there. If you need to, let me know that I'm overlooking this film a little bit. Yell if you need to. Be sure to ding the little bell down there so that you can stay notified and don't miss out on the daily content all through the month of October. I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow. Thank you and have a good one.